Hey guys, welcome to another Versus video. I'm Todd Anderson alongside Brown Doing. And today we're going to be playing some more Standard with M15, the new core set that comes out in just a few days. You've probably already played the pre-release at this point. We're still using proxies because we haven't been able to get our hands on the new cards yet. But today we're going to be using some older versions of the reprints as well as a few new cards that you haven't had a chance to see just yet.
How are we going to get these cards if it's not like, it's another like 5 months till 2015? I don't even know. Yeah. How is it even possible?
Yeah, I don't know.
We're time travelers.
It's like when you buy a new car and they say, oh, this is the brand new 2015 Mazda Miata or whatever.
It's like purchased in 2012.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, but today I'm going to be playing Apex Jund, and this is just a Jund mid-rangey control deck that has Garrick Apex Predator at the top end. If you want to read a little more about the deck, I did write an article about it last Wednesday, so be sure to check that out on the premium side. But let's go and take a look at the deck before we get started today. So as you can see, the core of the deck is these 16 green creatures. We have 8 mana accelerators with Elvish Mystic and Sylvan Caryatid, as well as ways to consistently hit our land drops to cast our bigger spells with Corsair of Crewfix, and provide a relevant body to block early on, as well as gain a few points of life, and 4 copies of Polo-Kranos, because what the hell else are you going to do for 4 mana that's better than Polo-Kranos? I haven't found anything yet.
Yeah, but, there's not a whole lot.
Yeah, so I mean, he's just a great guy for ramp. He's one of the easiest ways to apply pressure to the control decks while also being able to, really keep down the mono blue decks and their master waves, as well as the mono red Tom Ross aggressive decks and things like that. Just a giant, awesome threat. Really no need to continue on talking about it. But the rest of the deck really looks a lot different from your normal green style deck. We're focused way more around removal spells as well as card advantage engines. And we do that very similarly to how the Black Devotion decks do it with spot removal like Abrupt Decay, Dreadbore, Ultimate Price, as well as Hero's Downfall, but also Underworld Connections, which works really well with Corsair of Crewfix. If you haven't had that engine going before, it generates a lot of card advantage, and you're usually breaking even on the life every turn too, which is pretty absurd. But at the top end, we have 2 copies of Rakdos Return, 1 Vraska the Unseen, and 2 Garrick Apex Predator. Now, Garrick is the new card that we're trying out as the main focus as our finisher. We are a little light on threats with this deck, so I could see us having trouble game 1 against control. That could be fixed if you want to cut some of the removal spells or possibly the Underworld Connections and play something like Xenagos the Reveler or some other Planeswalker that could provide you with a way to generate constant threats against them. But the mana base, we are a little shy on red sources with just 10. We're hoping to mitigate that with Sylvan Caryatids. We have 5 temples to help fix our early draws. We don't have that many 1-drops, just Elvish Mystic. No Thoughtseizes in the main. We left those in the sideboard since we don't really want to deal a ton of damage to ourselves, since we do deal a lot of damage to ourselves with our lands, as well as Underworld Connections. We have 1 copy of Urborg that allows us to cast Hero's Downfall and Underworld Connections more easily, but also it keeps our Lenore Waste from always dealing us a point of damage if we happen to draw it. It also lets us tap our Forest for black if we do draw some of our double black spells or need to cast 2 spells in 1 turn. But yeah, that's it for the main deck, guys. Not a whole lot to say. It's a very straightforward, punch them in the mouth kind of deck. But let's go and take a look at the sideboard and see what kind of goodies we got there. Alright, so in the sideboard, as I said earlier, we do have a little trouble with control for game 1, but that's absolutely not the case after game 1 because we get access to roughly 10 cards up to 12 that can come in against them. The biggest and baddest one of them all, I think, is probably Mistcutter Hydra, simply because we have ways to pressure their hand via Rakdos Return and Thoughtseize, kind of forcing them to play things like Sphinx Revelation a little earlier than they're used to, which makes it less likely that they'll find the correct answers to things like Mistcutter Hydra. And the fact that it has haste and can be gigantic in the late game means that we actually get to do something with all these extra lands we hit off of Corsair of Crewfix and things like that. We get to shave on some of our worst removal spells against them, bring in these big hard-hitting things like Sire of Insanity, as well as these Thoughtseizes to take away their answers for our early stuff. For the Thassa decks, we have 2 copies of Unravel the Ether. Thassa is a huge problem for any sort of mid-range green deck and will usually be the card that beats you. Normally you have answers to Master of Ways. We have 4 copies of Hero's Downfall, as well as an Ultimate Price and 3 copies of Doomblade in the sideboard. But Thassa just doesn't die, and we have to shuffle her in. We don't have a Revoke Existence or Deicide in these colors, so Unravel is our best option there. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, our sideboard, these Mistcutter Hydras are flexible because they can come in against mono blue devotion. These Doomblades can come in against red green monsters, mono blue, mono red, any sort of creature based deck. Siren Sanity, Rakdos Return, and Thoughtseize even can come in against black devotion based decks just as ways to punish their hand and force them or basically you eliminate their hand before they're able to use their spell removal spells to kill your guys. Once you get rid of their hand, then you start playing your creatures after that. Anyway, guys, that is Apex Jund. Stay tuned for BBD's deck text right down below.